words of my mouth and meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer.
Amen.
How many of you would say you have a fairly regular prayer life? How many of you would say right about now is about the most regular of my prayer life, this hour on a Sunday morning? And maybe you're still wondering, maybe it's a little bit of both. But the thing I would say is that as Christians, it's one of the few things we actually have to give to the world, is that ability to pray. For those who do pray regularly, what do you generally pray for? I would guess probably your family, friends, people who have said, would you please pray for me, I'm undergoing surgery or going through a rough patch. But there's three prayers that author Anne Lamott said are the only prayers actually necessary. Help, thank you, and wow. That's not a bad place to start either. But how many of you have ever just, for no reason whatsoever, just prayed for somebody? They popped into your head, they haven't asked you for anything, they didn't tell you that they're going through some crisis, you just said, I'm thinking about that person, maybe I'll pray for them today. That's a time when my prayer life is really going well. I actually try to do that, to be able to just maybe take the parish directory and randomly just pick someone. It's easy when I know it's their birthday, their anniversary or something, that's okay. But just because their name appeared in front of me, I don't have any idea what's going on. There may be nothing beyond just a normal day for them. But to be able to say, God would be present for them in whatever they're going through today. How many of you ever occasionally just felt like, I must be being prayed for by somebody because something feels different today? I've occasionally gotten that feeling, which means somebody somewhere is praying for me. Who knows what they're praying for? But somewhere along the line, I'm being supported that way. The thing, of course, in today's letter of Paul to Timothy is he urges the church to be people of prayer. Intercessions, thanksgivings, whatever kind of prayer. And then he adds this caveat. Pray for the kings and those in authority. I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. We do pray regularly in the prayers of the people for president and governor. And I love the way we phrase it in the Right One prayers. That they may make wise decisions and take right actions. We don't say what a wise decision might look like or what a right action would be. We leave that up to God. And I have a feeling if we were to take a poll of what we think a wise decision or a right action might be, we'd have a fairly substantial diversity of opinion on that. And that's okay. But we should always be praying for our leaders because we live in a world in which the decisions they make could, in fact, impact us. And certainly for the early church, this was really essential because they weren't trusted at all by the authorities. I would think they would say, yeah, we want to be praying for them. Pray to leave us alone. Please don't come and kick down our doors looking for us. And if your word gets out that we're talking about you, we want you to know that all we're doing is praying for you. So when you get to that place, to be able to say, this is why we do it, is almost essential in getting what Paul said would be a peace and a quietness within ourselves. And to me, that is when I am praying, when I've got it right, which I will freely admit is not always the case. There is a peacefulness and quietness and actually a sense of focus that I can get from doing that. When I align my day around prayer, things seem to get clearer. I get a lot more done. It's a framework in which to go about living my daily life. It also, by praying for others, helps me to remember the connection we have, not only of close friends, but as fellow human beings struggling to live our daily lives. And in holding each other in prayer, perhaps things might go a little better. No guarantee that it will. And certainly I've encountered folks who say, I'm not bothering with prayer. I've prayed for things and nothing that I ever prayed for happened. I prayed for the winning lottery ticket, it still hasn't happened. Yeah, and you go through these trivial things, and occasionally there are some really major things. Like I prayed for somebody who had a terminal illness and it wasn't cured. I prayed for somebody to get a job and they didn't get it. I prayed for my kid to get their head glued on straight and it didn't happen. By the way, I have not prayed that one. But you look at these things and that is no reason not to pray. Because what would happen if you say, well, what does that say about prayer if the only time it works is when what we want to have happen happens? So when things don't go right, does that mean that person didn't pray correctly? No. Does it mean their faith was weak? Not in my opinion. But it just means that sometimes the way a prayer gets answered isn't always the way we would hope. Sometimes maybe all we can do is ask God to be as present with whoever it is we're praying for, or to help us to be in a place of acceptance for whatever might be. No reason not to hope for good things, but to be able to be in a place of peace and acceptance when things don't go always the way we would have them. So that remembering that the connection we have to God, to other people, and to ourselves, to me, flows out of prayer. So I'm going to urge you, if this is the only time you pray, keep coming. But you might want to think about, perhaps if things don't always feel right, that maybe for 10 minutes in the morning, even if you're in the shower, think about what's going on for you today. How do you need God to help you get through whatever it is that's in front of you? Who else needs prayers? If you're like, I wouldn't know who to begin with, take the bulletin home. There's a very nice long list of people for whom you may or may not have any kind of relationship with, but have asked us to pray for them. There are people who have birthdays and anniversaries, all kinds of things. That's a good framework in which to start. Maybe give it a couple of months. See if you don't notice a change within yourself. I don't guarantee it'll happen. If I could do that, boy, I'd be making a fortune. But I can say this from my own personal experience, that when I have taken the time to do that, I have found, in fact, my day goes a lot smoother. That I am a lot easier to deal with for other people, but also with myself. I can be a lot less critical of myself, and I can get a lot more done. If you want to tell me how it works, I'd love to hear from you in a couple of months. If you choose not to do it, hey, that's between you and God as well. But as your priest, and as St. Paul did to Timothy, I urge you, give it a try and see what happens.